Hi, John, and welcome to The Real Truth About Weight Loss Summit. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Chef AJ. I'm really excited about the summit.
Yeah, well, I knew you when. You don't happen to have a before picture on you, do you? We could post one, but you have a very remarkable story of health, hope, healing, and over a 100-pound weight loss, and I'd love for you to share it with our viewers.
Yeah, I do actually. I don't know how we'd post it here, but I'm sure the guys will get it and figure it out. But yeah, it's been quite a journey, and it started at a place that's near and dear to both our hearts, right?
True North.
Yeah, it was, my whole journey really started with Dr. Goldhammer and Doug Lyle and a good friend of theirs that, kind of woke me up, so that was kind of the start. Let's see, where do I start? What do you want me to do?
Well, let's start with your weight loss. 108 pounds, that's a lot of weight. That's like a person.
Yeah, well, it is a whole person, and how it starts is actually starting. A lot of people, including me, it didn't just happen from the time I started losing. This has been a cycle. This has been a journey for a long, long time. People say, John, you lost all this weight in just, 8 or 9 months, and mostly in like 5, 6 months. And I say, well, that start happened over and over and over and over for like 10 years, right?
Were you overweight most of your life, or was it more a more recent phenomena?
I was overweight later in life. In fact, strangely enough, I was raised a vegetarian. I really didn't even have any meat, until I was in my late 20s. One time I had something that really put me off. I had meat at a friend's house when I was 16, and it was terrible. And somehow I snuck it out. I spit it out of my napkin and kind of hid it under the table. And but then afterwards, a friend of mine introduced me to the Jewish deli and a hot pastrami sandwich, and forget it. From there, it was to fast food, and it was downhill after that.
Oh my goodness! You remind me of that Seinfeld episode where he spit out the mutton in the napkin, and then the dogs followed him home. In your case, John, though, it wasn't just aesthetics. That for your wanting to lose weight, you were really sick.
Yeah, I was really sick. And in fact, I used food to really isolate and numb myself from the world. And it just became a pattern of choice. And I didn't even know that was even possible, what I was doing, consciously. But over the years, I developed diabetes and heart disease and hypertension and neuropathy and high cholesterol and, just across the board, blurry vision and angina and just was slowly cooking myself to death from the inside out, and didn't really know it because I was in this mentality of, tomorrow, when I finish this, then, I'll hire a personal trainer, I'll get this, I'll do this program, I'll reach out. But, I just kept thinking I had to do it on my own, pull myself up by my own bootstraps, until I just had a real wake up call,
What was your wake up call? Was that when you burned your feet?
Well, yeah, it was a combination. When I burnt my feet was really when I really realized that what I needed to do. My wake up call came before that, when friends of mine would like Larry, disagreeable Larry. He gave up on me. Some of you guys have had that experience, perhaps, of a friend that cares, or you care so much about someone that you might put them off, or you're trying to get them to be more healthy or heal themselves, and with food or whatever, change their ways, or do something, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And finally, I had friends like that, my sister and Larry, and finally Larry said, John, I'm not going to bug you anymore. I'm not going to call you. I'm not going to check on you. I'm not going to, you keep just doing whatever you want to do, and I'm not going to waste my time. He said, I care more about you than you care about yourself. And he said, this really hit home. He said, you have to decide whether you want to live. John, wow. Do you want to live? And I'm like in my head, trying to talk, and all of a sudden my tongue got cut out. And in my head, I'm saying, yeah, I want to live. What a stupid, I will automatically answer that. Yes, I want to live. But the words wouldn't come out. And in my
Mm.
heart, I knew that what I was doing was I was killing myself. I had this super awareness in that moment of having to really ask that question deeply. And, and I didn't have an answer. I could not answer him right away because I knew the actions I was taking were acting like I didn't want to live. And then in contemplating that question, it begged another question: why? And I had to stop and think about both questions. And that was a sobering moment. And that's when, I didn't have an answer for him right away. He said, I don't know, Larry, I really don't know. I have to think about it. Think about, do I want to live and why? And in thinking about that, there was a time when I was sitting on the beach, thinking, contemplating these things, and my journey back to health and whether I thought I could do it or not. I didn't know if I could do it. And I saw this little family playing out on the beach. They had 3 little girls, and one of the little girls was very obese, like 12 years old, but completely carefree. She didn't know it yet, 11, 10, something like that. And they were running around. They were having fun and joy and playing hula hoops and chasing each other and playing tag. And I was watching this. I just had this vision of a tsunami that was coming towards her, that she didn't know the world was going to come crashing down on her. Like she never had a chance, with this weight and food and this environment. And on top of that, having the pressures, the body image pressures of being a woman. And I just, I cried and I thought, I don't know if I can beat this myself. And I really didn't know, but I thought if on this journey, somebody else might get inspired. And that's the reason why you've got this summit now, the weight loss summit, to bring hope and inspiration. If on some journey that I could go on, regardless of my outcome, if somebody else could be saved or be inspired or have hope, I'm going to do it. And that was at that moment that I committed to doing that, even though just before that I had burnt my feet in a fire. And that would talk about a wake-up call. I'll tell you the story of the real wake-up call, which is, these factors that make you really have to sit up and face where you're at. It's like you've got this closet in your life, in your head, for me, and you don't want to open it. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to look in the mirror. You don't want to face the reality of your health conditions or where you're at. And so I was numbing myself out with food. I was isolating myself from the world, from feedback. I didn't want to see myself in the mirror. I was just kind of in this little la-la land, and slowly killing myself. Or I would overstimulate myself with whatever it was, coffee or excitement or some new project or some new idea, whatever, to drown out the real thing that my body was trying to tell me what to focus on. And so with burning my feet, the story went like this. I was in a little bonfire. I was at the beach. And I was sitting with friends, and I held my feet up to the, kind of, far away from the fire. And I was just kind of holding them up there. And then finally I got tired of holding them up, and I put them down. And then the rest of the evening was kind of running around. And then when I got home, I was in the light, to put my key in the door. And as I looked down, I saw that my sandals were soaked in blood. They were just red, just dripping with blood. I thought, what in the world? I missed, this cut piece of glass or something. No big deal, I went in, and then I saw, clearly, and I was tracking blood all over the carpet. I went right to the bathroom, and I put my feet to wash them off. And while I was cleaning them off, I realized I don't feel a thing. I'm sitting here, I've got something wrong, and I'm sitting here washing this off. I can't even tell if the water's hot or cold. And I had to look in the mirror, and I lifted my foot up and I stuck it up against the mirror, and here was all across a band on both feet, 2nd, 3rd degree burns, all blistered up, bleeding, skin coming off. Thank God, I just got tired of holding my feet up. I mean, we would have just burned them black. And that was a huge wake-up call. I mean, I was in shock. And to realize, that I could let myself go that far, and to realize, and then it was overwhelming, like being at the bottom of the well, like, oh my God, how do I get out of this? How am I going to get back? And it was at that moment, just after that I was sitting on the beach thinking about all of this and thinking about interviewing these doctors and doing a transformational documentary and all of that, and could I do it? And then I burnt my feet, and the podiatrist said, "You're not going anywhere. Hello, McMahon, you're going to be off your feet elevated in bed for 2 months. And then we'll see if we don't have to do skin grafts," right? And, that's when I was watching that little girl, and I thought, she doesn't have a chance. And when I started reading some of the statistics, I started to do some of the research on diabetes and obesity, and seeing, hearing some of these top doctors in the world and scientists saying this is going to be worse than, it's going to be worse than the Black Death of the 14th century, worse than the plague. The body count's going to be higher. The head of the Oxford Diabetes Center wrote a whole paper and presented it on this very topic, all of the vectors of disease, and showed exactly how it hit the same different areas. And it's going to be devastating. And Neil Barnard, right after that, said, Dr. David Matthews said it's going to be like the Black Death. The body count's going to be higher. And I decided right then, I'm not going to wait another day, another month. I sat in my car, I saw that little girl. She doesn't have a chance. People need to know. And so I decided to do this documentary series. And a friend of mine's brother had done one. He said, "Okay, we'll help you. We'll tell you what to do. You got to do it." And so, I made these little boots that would elevate my feet, and put a bunch of pads that would hold the front of them up. And so I was walking around like a duck, and I carried all this stuff on my back, and I went across the country for 3 months and did a documentary.
And the rest is history. Yeah.
The rest is history.
Yeah. Well, your I Thrive documentary series has helped so many people and inspired so many. I just want to go back a second in case people don't understand what some of the side effects of diabetes are, why you were not able to feel your feet so that you were able to burn them.
Yeah. Well, peripheral neuropathy, diabetes is this thing that affects you from your head to your toe. Type 2 diabetes, there's type 1 diabetes, there's type 2 diabetes, there's type 3 diabetes, there's type 1.5 diabetes. And type 1 diabetes is typically associated with the genetic inheritance, which is autoimmune and attacks the pancreas. But now, what we're finding? About 1 out of 10 children that are susceptible to this, it's triggered by dairy products. It is not, in fact, some have caught it, like even Dr. Furman have caught it early on, type 1 diabetes in a young person, and have reversed it before there was too much damage done to the pancreas. Type 2 diabetes is like what I had. That's brought on, and what it does is it totally constricts the microvascular system, and also prevents it from being able to process insulin and glucose properly. And it creates a terrible condition in your body with high blood sugars out of control and insulin resistance. And this is a metabolic disaster. And it affects everywhere, your entire support system. Everywhere the blood and oxygen need to go, diabetes is literally cooking you from the inside out. And it's killing your nerves. And when your nerves are dying, your sensation is dying. That's why it's like the frog, that's slowly cooking. His ability to sense that it's hot is numbed out, and he doesn't even know. And that's what happens with peripheral neuropathy. You get tingling in your extremities. It starts in your feet, and then it goes to your hands, and then you get something like what's called a silent diabetic heart attack. So type 2 diabetics, they have I think it's like 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3 that are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, they will die of a heart attack. And their first symptoms, Dr. Neil Barnard said, lights out. That's kind of how he said it. It's not going to be like TV and you get resuscitated. It's, for the most part, it's lights out. And diabetics sometimes don't present symptoms like a normal person with a heart attack. It's called, you can Google it, silent diabetic heart attack, and you'll see, it doesn't, feel the same. It doesn't present the same way. And I had one of those. And so that's type 2 diabetes, really dangerous. And type 3, well, man, that's when it really starts clogging up your brain. And type 1.5 is when you've been on medication so long, and all the drugs do mostly is they're pounding on your pancreas, they're squeezing it to work harder and harder and harder and harder, and to create extra insulin to push the glucose into your cells, and finally the pancreas starts to give out. done, finished, cooked. That's type 1.5 diabetes now. So that's the range of kind of what we're looking for. It's a devastating disease, and 1 out of 2 people are going to have diabetes in our lifetime. Most
Incredible.
people don't even know it.
Were you on medication for it, and have you gotten completely off your medication?
When I went in to see the doctor, when I kind of got this wake-up call, originally my worst triglycerides were 2,170. He said and this was years ago when I was still kind of ignoring it. And he said, you probably had diabetes for 5 or 6 years, didn't even know it. And he prescribed me a bag full of medicine for managing my blood sugar, and for cholesterol, and for hypertension, and for depression and anxiety and neuropathy. I mean, it was a bag full of medicine. And I just kind of did what he said. And he said, John, you're going to be managing diabetes for the rest of your life. You're going to be taking this metformin, whatever, everything else for the rest of your life. And here's where I want you to get educated. Didn't ever said a word about food or nutrition, nothing. And I took that bag from the pharmacy and I threw it in the trash. Not because I was smart, not because, I thought I knew better. It was just too overwhelming. But the problem was, when I did that, I didn't even, I didn't take a healthy route. I didn't do anything. I just continued to ignore it until, I told you the beginning of this story.
Yeah.
And so every doctor would have had me on medication. I wasn't on medication, and I wasn't eating right until True North.
Right. Well, did you ever attempt to improve your health or lose weight before this wake-up call?
Absolutely. Yeah. I went down the road, paleo and keto, and just, and my breakfast was cottage cheese and an egg and some vegetables, that whole route. And I was eating yogurt and, and I just could never stick with it. And I ended up falling off. And next thing I knew, a little bit of stress, I'm ordering a Domino's pizza. And I didn't really educate myself on nutrition, just kind of knew. And I'd buy a bunch of food and get in a frenzy, and I'd be juicing, and then I'd fall off of that. And then I gave up. I just gave up. I quit trying.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you didn't quit trying, because you're helping so many people now to try. So what led you to True North? Because I know you have a really interesting story about going there once before you actually had your, breakthrough.
Yeah, well, a couple of years before, in 2015, my friend Larry again, who, God bless his soul, I probably wouldn't be here without him, and Doug Lyle. I finally, just to shut him up, he said, you got to go to True North. You got to go to True North. And I said, okay, I'll go. He said, just even for 7 days. And so he actually bought me 7 days to go to True North. And I didn't fast. True North Health Center is in Santa Rosa, California, where I'm at right now. It's a medically supervised fasting center, but they prepare salt, oil, sugar, whole food, plant-based, no flour, no alcohol, no caffeine. Amazing, beautiful food there, and education, both behavioral and food-wise, and cooking and recipes. And he said, you got to go there just to kind of get grounded. And I went for 7 days, and it started me on my journey. And so that's how I got introduced to True North, was a gift from a friend.
What a friend, and what a gift. I bet he's so proud of you now.
Yeah.
His investment paid off.
It did pay off. I owe him a great debt. And my sister, of course, could never stop talking about Chef AJ.
Yeah, and she's a nurse too. Yeah, it's funny. You don't listen to family. You don't listen to friends.
No.
It sometimes takes almost a life or death situation like you had.
Yeah.
Incredible. So you went to True North in 2015. You ate the food. What'd you think of it? Did you have some results in improving your health? Because at that time you weren't quite ready to stick with it.
Well, you know what I did for 6 months? I got the religion, and I went home and I did the thing. I cleaned up my environment. I filled it with mason jars and labels and nuts and seeds and grains and food and whole plants. And I had my juicer, and I had my Vitamix, and, I had my Instant Pot. My sister's like, yeah, you got to get an Instant Pot of Chef AJ. And I did really, really well for like 5 or 6 months. And then, but I was lacking one thing. I'll tell you in a minute. But you know, I went traveling. And I thought everything was cool. And I'm in London, and I thought, oh, I'm going to have some fish and chips. I'm going to go to a pub. I want to have a pint of Guinness and throw that back. And I'm not going to leave without that experience. I had to have that experience. And I did. And that led to, the next day I had some chips, and then I'd have some greens and beans. And then, it was just kind of, then it just started this little roller coaster, and the waves got a little bit bigger and bigger. And I'd come back, and then I'd go up and down, and my weight started to slowly climb and that was in January. So in July, I went to True North. I did really well. I lost like 40 pounds, and I felt great, 45 pounds. And then in January, I'm in London. I had this experience, and then start the roller coaster. By April, I gave up. It was the craving. I could not just get past the cravings. And I was missing two things from that journey that I discovered later on my second journey. Which involved me producing the documentary series. And that was, I found out about food addiction. I didn't know that was a real thing. And it was really, really real. And it was shocking. 2, community and connection. I still was immersed in the mentality of, I got to do it myself. I've got to be independent. Then I'll interact. When I'm strong, when I'm whatever, then I'll go out in the world. And just totally relying on myself and not connecting with others. Those two things, those two pillars, I had missed the first time around.
And they're crucial.
They were crucial for me, that's for sure.
I interviewed for this summit an expert in food addiction, and so many people resist that label. I personally thought it was empowering to find out that I was a food addict and there was something I could do about it. How do you feel about just the whole idea of food addiction? Because a lot of people think it's ridiculous.
Well, the people that aren't stuck in it and have escaped it think it's ridiculous. And those that get educated about it don't think it's ridiculous. And here was my experience. My experience was, thank God someone is doing this research, because I thought I was a complete idiot. Because you feel like, what is wrong with me? I'm broken. I should just remove myself from the gene pool. I can't even function right. Who's addicted to food? That's, but what happened was I'm watching some TV show. This was my first kind of really, where it really hit me. And I think it was something about Sherlock Holmes, and it was done so well. And it shows his journey through his addiction with cocaine and heroin, and how he struggled with it, and he hid, and he would do it alone, and all the things that he went through. And I would watch him, and I'm like, that's exactly what I do with food. I thought, and then you see people, stories about people that are alcoholics and things like that. I started to recognize these behaviors, and I thought, could I really be doing that with that food? Am I numbing myself out? Am I isolating? Am I using this to knock myself out, or to stimulate myself? And sure enough, in doing the documentary series and interviewing people like you and other experts and realizing that it's very real, I found out that it's absolutely true.
We have very similar trajectories, John, because it was the movie Flight with Denzel Washington, where he was a cocaine addict and alcoholic, where I was watching him and I said, that's me, but with food. So I didn't know that it was something that you saw because it really, and I was actually empowered when I found out it was something, because now we could do something about it. We don't have to feel ashamed or hide, because it's not us, it's the food. And when we don't have those foods, we don't have the addiction.
Absolutely. And then to build on that, to identify, I'm not broken. I'm actually, like with Doug Lyle, Beat Your Genes, and that the pleasure trap, and then these traps after the pleasure trap that we're in our environment, to think, John, you're okay. Just take a breath. Just realize where you're at. Take stock, and you don't have to be perfect, but just go out there and be aware. And here's what you can do, and, control your environment, and don't yourself be hungry, and just, and here's a toolbox, right? And it was just, and there's other people that are just like you out there, right?
Kindred spirits. So how important do you think the environment is? And what was your environment like before and what's it like now?
It's everything, okay? The law of conservation of energy, which is at work so strong. It's like one of the top hardware circuits right after sex and reproduction. Conserve energy, right? What's the least amount of energy that I can put out for the most amount of energy that I can get in? So if I can be sitting in a car, hardly moving, driving, and kind of stick my hand out like that, and then come back here and bring 3,000 calories, man, that's going to be saying, do that, do that, do that, right? So yeah, your environment is everything. So at home, absolutely, that's got to be clean, absolutely. And to the extent of you're aware of regular places that you travel, if you have places like when you go to the doctor's office, when you go to work, when you're going grocery shopping, if they're passing by places that trigger you or you're used to that pull into that drive-through or that pull into that gas station, that pull into that bakery or that coffee shop, find a different route. If it's longer or shorter, it doesn't matter, but it will help you. That's part of environmental control. It's everything.
Wow. You really understand this.
Man, I lived it.
Yeah.
I still live it. I'm not perfect. I
Right.
still haven't, I'm not where you're at yet, but
Oh,
I've learned another rule, a tool just by experience, and that's keep getting back up. Get up with
that's
a smile on your face, but get up right away. Don't wait till tomorrow.
mhm.
Don't wait until, oh, I've shot the day. I'm just going to binge the whole day away. When you are stuck, I mean, this is for me. When I've slipped off, and I do, and you know what? I just, even now, these things happen. And you just learn. You got environment next. You've got not letting yourself get hungry and filling yourself up with good starches, like Doug says, starch, 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 exercise, fruit, vegetables, and rainbow, and then you're kind of good to go. And then manage the stress in your life. But if you do fall, for me, it's getting back up immediately and getting that sugar, salt, and fat party fire in my mouth, getting it put out right away. The tendency I realized from the time before when I failed was that I would just let it go. And then I'd get stuck in this whole, oh, I'll start tomorrow. And tomorrow, never comes.
It never comes.
So it's today. And so immediately I want to put something green in my mouth. Even if I'm full, I want to get back in some nutrition. So whether it's a banana or an apple, or if it's a kale drink, or, greens are the best thing to get that clean mouth back again, clean palate. I will eat it. I won't say, oh, shoot, I just inhaled all those calories, and then I feel myself with guilt and shame, and I beat myself up. Stop all that. It's okay.
Right.
Just realize, oh, shoot, I got trapped. I was in the sand trap. But look, I can walk back over to the green again. Walk back up to the green, which is literally the green, drink some green juice or have a salad, or just get that nice taste back in your mouth, calm everybody down in there, and start back right away. That's kind of been my trick.
I think that's the best advice I've heard, because people will have a slip or a relapse, and it's not how many times that happens that's going to define their success, but how many times that they ultimately get up. And the sooner you get back on plan, the easier it is to stay on plan.
And don't be alone in it. One of the little tricks I use too is I won't get stuck in this denial. I'll take a picture of the wrappers of what I ate. I will make sure, and I'll make sure I will tell somebody that this happened, so that I'm not in some weird denial space, or I'm realizing, hey, this happened and I need to take action, and right away.
Yeah. When you do have these minor slips, can you always trace it back to something like maybe you did get too hungry, you didn't have enough food prepared?
Yeah, there's a couple. Number one is you're letting yourself get way too hungry, so you didn't eat that nice big, get used to eating vegetables and that warm hot breakfast in the morning. Lots of greens. When I think about eating, I see a plate, and the first thing I see is greens and vegetables, and the rest is, I fill out from there. So that was number one. And then, the stress of life. This all happens. And sometimes for me, I'm pulling 100 different directions, and then combine that with something else, and then maybe traveling or being away from home, or got the basics. I haven't been to the gym regularly. I haven't had my fresh air. I haven't been having my sleep and my water, these 4 pillars of natural hygiene and health. You start to let those slip. And what happens is the hardware circuitry starts to take control of your new plan. And you're along for the ride. Just forget it. Combine, drop a few of those pillars down, and then put yourself hungry, and then put yourself in a supernormal stimulus environment. Forget it. You're on the ride, man. You got to come back and realize, okay, I need some air, I need some sleep, I need some water, I need to, get my meal under control. And then you've got armor. It's like armor, right? You can go out into the real world.
It's amazing looking at you and talking to you, because I knew you at the start of your journey. You look 20 years younger, but you just look like you feel so much better. You're like a whole new person. You just seem like such a happy, joyful person now.
Hey, you can relate to this more, or anybody that's been through this journey. A lot of people on the outside may say, they'll say, wow, you look like a new person. When you look in the mirror, do you recognize yourself? What's it like? And I always say, it's not like a new person at all. What I see finally is me. What I feel is me. I feel like I got out. I feel like I escaped from jail. I feel like I got out of an insane asylum, and out of a straitjacket, and out of the rubber walls, and out of the Thorazine, being drugged up. I'm out. I'm alive. So I feel reborn. Is how I feel. That's what it's like, right? You feel like that person that was always stuck inside. It's like, let me out, let me out.
Right. I like your imagery of the insane asylum, because the pleasure trap is like being in prison or an insane asylum.
I mean, can't you picture being in locked in a rubber room and shot up with Thorazine, and so you're in the white room and you can't get out. And you have moments of lucidity when the drugs start to wear off, and you're like, oh, I want to get out, and then you're trapped. And that's what it's like. Trapped by your own genes.
Yep. So you went to True North, and you didn't fast the first time. You followed their plan of a sugar-free, oil-free, salt-free diet, but you had come from a background of junk food, pizza, burgers. How long did it take you to get used to the food? Because I know people watching will say, well, gosh, if I have to, fast on water or eat that kind of food, I'd rather die. I've actually heard people say that.
Yeah. I can relate to that, and I thought that too. But here's your choice. You are dying. Okay. That's number one.
Yeah.
You are dying. You are dying. I grant your wish. You're dying. You're choosing to die. But what's going to happen is it's going to be a horrible death. And so if you want to live, what Chef AJ and I would do is invite you to say, yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah. When you look at giving up all of that food in the position where you're at, where you're stuck in it and you're craving it right now, man, it is like looking up from the bottom of a well to a tiny little light, and you think that I can't do it. And many times in the documentary, you'll see that where I just said, I don't know if I can do it. And I'm interviewing all these top experts in the world. I'm thinking, not sure I can do it. So I can relate to that. But what I would invite you to do is your environment. Remember, we said that's number one. Surround yourself with people, educate yourself, clean out your environment at home, clean out your environment at work on your stress, because that's the key to success. And once you clean that up, you can make it. What happens is you've just got a few months of journey. Really, you push through like the first week, and what happens is you will get it. You just push through. This is just grit. You just push through the first week, and what happens is you'll get a taste of what it's like to have lower inflammation. And you'll go, oh, wow. Did I just walk up the stairs really fast? I feel pretty good this morning, and that's what hits really right away. Your blood pressure starts to come down. This stuff happens within days, right? Your first week. And then you've got something to build on. Hang on to that and connect with other people that are on the same journey, just a couple steps ahead of you. And you've got about a 3 or 4 month journey, and your taste will start to neuro adapt, and your cravings will, instead of being 9, 10, 11, 12, they'll be manageable. They'll be down, 2. You'll experience things that you thought you couldn't control yourself with 2 or 3. when you're filling yourself up in the morning and you're getting the exercise and the stress and you're having this, lowering the stimulants in your life, I'm telling you, and Chef AJ will tell you the same thing, that it will go away. This is just a few months, and we're begging you, just make this journey. Just come over to the other side. You've got this little bridge, right? And it's about 3 months long. First week, first week you start to see over the hill and you think, oh, okay, it's not so bad. Oh, wow, that was really good. Oh, this Southern stew and there's other things that I can eat. These other days, these really flavor. Okay, I can do this. This tastes pretty good. But a week goes by, 2 weeks go by. Oh, I've lost 5 or 10 pounds. And oh, I haven't had any salt. There goes 10 pounds right away, right in the first week. And then, but just a few months is all we ask. And then what happens on this journey, you'll be over this bridge, like one of those arched bridges, right? Those Japanese or Chinese bridges. You get to the middle and there's this little tipping point where all of a sudden there's going to be a connection between what you're eating and how you're feeling. You'll have that intellectually, but there's going to be a tipping point where you feel, and all of a sudden you'll feel your body, your craving for what you want to do be driven by how you want to feel. And then when that shift happens, you're like, wow, it's like getting glasses. And you're like, oh man, I'm craving some greens, some chard. Man, I want some of that Japanese sweet potato tacos. Or yeah, you start craving what your body needs, right? Because I remember having a dream as I was trying to start this journey. And just like many of you out there that, are saying, I can't beat these cravings. First of all, I get it. I'm with you. Good. This is trust. I'm asking you just to trust us. Trust Chef AJ and I. I dreamed of a bag of Doritos that was the size of a pillowcase. And it was a lucid dream. And I just went through the whole thing. And this was at the beginning of my fast. And at the end of my fast, I was dreaming about chard. And I'm just saying that this is the tipping point. It will happen. You just come along the journey. And the way you feel, forget it. I mean, you will have escaped the insane asylum.
Absolutely. So when you were producing your docuseries and interviewing all these experts, wondering yourself if you could even do this, what was it that gave you hope, Jon, to continue?
Oh, man. There are many times that I didn't have hope. I was in tears. I didn't think I could make it. I mean, imagine going to the Chef AJ Ultimate Weight Loss event in Las Vegas and then interviewing all of these people that were successful and it changed their life. And then going downstairs to the Italian restaurant and eating like probably 5,000 calories of steak and pasta and bread and oil, 2 baskets of bread and then going in your room and thinking, believe me, I know you guys, if you think you can't do it, I didn't think I could do it. Yeah, it was hard. But what I did was, because I kept surrounding myself and educating myself, I didn't quit. Every morning you just get back up and you just tell yourself, I'm not alone. I'm not broken. I'm just going to get back up and try again and try again. And if you never give up, then you'll make it.
I love it.
And you ask for help. Ask for help and be vulnerable.
Right. Well, the purpose of doing this summit is because we hope it will give people the hope they need and the help they need by interviewing the experts and people that have had amazing transformative stories like yourself. So if somebody was about to give up hope, what would you say to them? Call. Yeah. Yeah. Because or get to True North.
Oh, for sure.
Or the fasting escape.
Fasting escape, Balance for Life retreat,
Right.
True North, Eat to Live, whatever it is. Yeah. Go get help. I had to go get help and figure it out. It's worth whatever it is, and anybody could figure it out, even for a short period of time, just to get over the hump.
Yeah. And did you have to learn how to cook? Because I imagine before your transformation, you were eating mostly at restaurants and fast food, and you really can't do that anymore. Not to the degree that you did, and not certainly not the kind of foods you were eating.
No, I eat fast food all the time, you know, so it was pizza and fast food and going out to dinners, you know. So the only thing I ever cooked at home was I might, you know, just scramble eggs and make quesadillas or something stupid like that. But yeah,
So
I had to
now,
learn how to cook. You know, I'm still learning, you know, and I
wow,
don't know, but I know enough. I know enough to feed that tipping point that I talked about to say, hey, I know how to steam vegetables. I know how to use my Instant Pot. I know how to use my Vitamix barely. I can make some hot soup that's delicious just in the Vitamix with a few simple ingredients. I can steam some frozen vegetables. I can throw some beans in the Instant Pot. I can cut some potatoes in half and roast them in the oven. And with that skill, and I can make a salad, with that skill, you can do this. And it happens fast. Now, I've lost 108 pounds in like 8 months. I lost most of it in 5 months. My A1C is 4.9. A1C is a measurement of type 2 diabetes. It's the definitive measurement, and insulin resistance as well. You know, it was like my fasting insulin was like 28 to 30. It's 4. My A1C is now 4.9, just like somebody in their 20s. That's what Dr. Wes Youngberg said. You know, he was looking at my blood work. He said, you know, your A1C is lower than people I see in college.
that's
So,
incredible.
yeah,
Absolutely incredible.
you know, yeah.
Well, you were wearing those special boots while your feet were healing. So it wasn't like you were getting really any exercise other than walking. So you were able to lose all this weight without an exercise routine.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So weight loss happens in the kitchen. Fitness happens in the gym. And you know what? We're dealing with mental blocks and behavioral change and beating our genes first. Focus on one thing at a time. Okay. Everybody out there, you're not going to exercise that fat off. Forget it. Forget it. That's all a myth. Okay. And the summit will probably go into all those myths later with other experts, but that's a myth. The only thing that you need to do when you're doing this is master your environment, learn some basic cooking skills, surround yourself with good people, and eat right and get rest and just walk. What we're trying to do is get your lymph system working, get things moving, get your blood flowing, and just walk. If you just walk a little bit for 20 minutes every day or an hour a day, or if all you did was walk for 12 minutes after each meal, okay, that would be enough. And it will get you to the point where your body will heal and lose enough weight to where, and I've gotten to this point, I'm telling you, you can get there. You will be sitting, you will not be able to sit still. You will not be able to not want to exercise. Your body wants to move, and you'll move. So do not stress about exercise when you're just starting out.
A lot of people say they don't have the motivation to do what you did. They don't have the willpower. What would you say to them?
I'd say you're not in enough pain. All
Sounds
right.
like Dr. Goldhammer.
It is. It is. But here's the
Yeah.
thing. It gets back to that first thing that I talked about, facing reality. If you think you can't do it, you're start to get honest with yourself and look at really where you're at. And I would invite you that this doesn't take any time. Go get a full blood panel done. Get a 4-hour glucose and insulin resistance and C-reactive protein, C-reactive homeocysteine. Get a thyroid panel. Get a real clear look at where you're at, your triglycerides across the board, so that you can look and see and say, you are in trouble. Hello. Get some stress tests done, you know, and get out of denial first, you know, because that's the first step. And then, you know, we talked about educate yourself and surround yourself with people like Chef
So,
AJ.
oh, thank you. So many people watching the summit probably have lost weight once or many times in their life. And it seems that most people that lose weight through a great deal of suffering and deprivation gain it back. Are you worried that that could happen to you? Because how
No,
long have you maintained this?
no, this has been, I started a year ago, almost not even a year, but ask me the same thing. You know, if anybody's out there that's watched that famous movie, Joe Cross, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, you know, I had someone ask me this in an interview earlier. You know, hey, what about Phil? Man, look at Phil. You know, he did really good, and then man, he went off the wagon, and it's a terrible, tragic story. How's that not going to happen to you? Well, I'll tell you what, I can't predict the future, you know, but I'll tell you what, I've made this my life purpose And waking up is not something that I want to go back on. And the first time I did fall off the wagon, and I missed those pillars of community and connection and support in my environment. And to that question, I would say, no, I'm committed now to the way that I feel. And there is a tipping point. Once you get past it and you make that huge neural connection with eating for what you feel, even though you might slip under certain circumstances, you're not like whoosh, going off the bandwagon. So that's kind of what I would say to that.
That's great. You've inspired so many people to take this journey. Do you have any stories about some of the people you've inspired that have followed in your footsteps?
Oh man, yeah, it's overwhelming. Actually, it truly is. Chef, you know what it's like. You run the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, and you've been doing this for years. And it's what gets you up in the morning when someone instant messages you and says, Chef AJ, I want to thank you so much. You've inspired me. And then they start rattling off. I've lost 41 pounds, or I've lost who was it that lost 200 pounds?
Yeah, Heather, right.
Heather lost 200 pounds, and they'll say, I did this, my life has changed. I can move. Here's my sugar, my numbers, and all this. It works. And those stories come in day after day after day. And that's what's really motivating, is to hear that and to be moved by that.
Yeah. So some of the doctors that you saw before your transformation, have you been in touch with any of them? Have they seen what you've accomplished?
Yeah, they couldn't believe it. I'll tell you a story. I was at Dr. Furman's home, because I did all these interviews at home in person. I flew all around the country, lugging the stuff around. I'm in a wheelchair, it's kind of funny. And and Furman told me later, when I saw him after, just recently, looking like this, he said, John, when how he is, John, when I saw you, I didn't know, he saw me. He said, Joe Cross came in here and he interviewed me for Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. And he had a whole crew in here, lights and cameras and sound guys and he's looking around, he's going, it's just you're by yourself. And I'm kind of clonking around in those my feet, and I'm taking my tripod off and the camera and the sound and putting up a couple lights, and it's taking a couple hours to get set up. And he told me later, he says, who is this? He's thinking in his head, who is this guy? He's coming in here. He says, I don't know about this guy. I asked him, what do you think? And what were my chances back then? He says, I thought maybe about 50-50. I know a lot of people start this journey and they don't make it.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing things like this, The Real Truth About Weight Loss, and these summits. And I do the documentary series because we don't want people to give up. And
right.
We know it's hard. But he was really excited. So that was the one big story. And of course, Alan, I went back and saw Alan. Alan said the same thing, how cynical he was. He said, yeah, it's this crackpot coming in here to interview me, and, he's in trouble. Maybe he had to go take care of himself and then do the documentary. Yeah. But I wanted to show my transformation. And Alan's like, man, he's a poster child now.
That's what was so great about it, is that you actually, it wasn't that you had this success and then did a documentary about it. You did it the whole process. Yeah. So people could really see how genuine it was and your struggle. So what's next for you?
Well, as you know what the numbers are for obesity and even diabetes, it's half our population. In fact, if you talk to Dr. Wes Youngberg down there at Loma Linda, he'll tell you that 80% of the U.S. population is diabetic or pre-diabetic, and they don't even know it. Doesn't matter if you think you're skinny and you're off the hook, forget it, you are not. And so, as much of the reach that we've had so far in this message, there's millions and millions of people just in the U.S., let alone around the world. The number one killer in Mexico, type 2 diabetes. India, China, it's a real pandemic. So this is my life's work, is just say, hey, you can turn it around.
Yeah. So many people that are diabetic or pre-diabetic or have insulin resistance, they go to their doctor and their doctor tells them to go on a low carb diet, keto or paleo. And what would you say to that? Because did you try those diets at all? And did you have success? before
Yeah,
ultimately landing on the whole food plant-based SOS-free diet?
yeah, SOS and flour and alcohol and
Yeah.
caffeine.
Yeah.
um, y- you know, I did, and here's what I have to say about diets. Look, this is going to work, and the reason why that it's going to last for me is that it's not a diet. I don't want you guys looking for a diet. You need a lifestyle, something that is sustainable. It's going to be about the way you are going to live the rest of your life. So this is what you're crafting, and this is what we want to talk about: is the life that you're going to live. The weight will come off by itself. The chronic disease will reverse. The inflammation will go away. The congestive heart disease, the diabetes, all of those things, the autoimmune conditions for a large majority all of this will diminish. Pick a lifestyle. Don't go on a program or a diet because that's not sustainable. That's why I'm just saying, it's eat real food from the garden.
Yep, absolutely. So your rock bottom was burning your feet without even knowing it. How are your feet now? Did they heal? Can you feel them again?
Well, they took 9 months to heal the burns. They were open like raw flesh for 9 months before they healed. And I didn't want to get skin grafts, and so it took a long time. Now, the neuropathy, that's a long-term reversal. I've done a lot of damage, and I'm exploring all kinds of modalities to help nerves regenerate. But I can tell you one thing, that I was with my neurologist, and I had an MRI. I've had nerve conduction studies. So I've got good before, numbers afterwards. And this is something that you don't hear a standard allopathic neurologist say very often. This word, renervation. Okay, so a lot of the impingement and the stenosis and the problems of the capillaries start way back up in the spine. And she's seeing renervation. That means the nerves are growing, and they're making their way back down, the feeling down to my feet. And there's a bunch of other body work that can be done that I'm trying to, let people know about. This whole organ that now we're finding about, the fascia, that holds everything together. That can get all adhered and pinch off nerves and blood vessels as we abuse our body with these toxic foods that we're putting in. So, yeah, just struggling with the neuropathy, but it's reversing.
That's terrific. That's terrific. So many people seem to do well during certain times of the year, but then they get to the holidays, maybe starting with Halloween or the more difficult ones, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and it completely derails them. How do you navigate social situations in general and holidays in particular that seem to be so difficult for people, whether they're a food addict or not, that are just trying to be healthy and lose weight or at least not gain weight?
Well, you're the master. You've got a whole toolbox for them. And I'll tell you what, I'm not perfect. A lot of times, here's reality for me. I've gone to a wedding, and we've just gone through Halloween here, and we got Thanksgiving coming up, and I haven't been perfect. I've been in an environment where that candy or that thing was like right in front of me, and I'm telling you, that trigger and that straight, and it's in your mouth so fast before you can say Jack Robinson, but then, you realize, once you've had so much clean food, you're like, that doesn't taste very good. And you start to associate the feeling with not eating that food. But one of the things is not being hungry when you're going to these parties and events, and bringing your own food. I mean, all the tricks. You can talk about it better than I can. Not being hungry, bringing some of your own food, some of your own snacks. You were a pastry chef, and you've created a whole bunch of great SOS-free holiday, awesome, dishes and foods and little treats that you can have and you could bring with you so you can participate with people and really still be healthy. So those are some of the techniques. And then it's just always have, contingency plan. You bring stuff in your car, and when you go back home, you eat a good meal. And then I start thinking too about different ways to connect. And I realize that, wow, it's not about the food. I'm here to connect with my friends. I'm here to play with these kids or catch up with my uncle or my best friend. And And then you just get better and better and better at it the more you try. And in your community, reach out.
Yeah. So what was life like before you lost 108 pounds, and what is life like now?
Oh, man. Oh. Okay. Let's start with this. What was your biggest dress size?
16.
Okay. And I'm going to guess, what are you, 4?
Yeah, 2'4". Yep.
2'4". You've got some designers you can wear 2?
In some, yes. Mostly a 4.
What's that feel like when you
Yeah.
go shopping and when you like
Yeah.
walk into the front of a store where in the front is where they're going to put their most stylish, hottest stuff, right? When you walk into the front, you tell me what that feels like when you walk up and just start looking what's on the rack and take it to the dressing room and put it on without a thought. What's that feel like?
It's the best.
It's the best.
I think that's my favorite thing, because I remember one time I was attending a funeral and I literally forgot to pack clothes, and I sent my husband into Ross. I said, just get anything. This is I don't care. And most of the time I couldn't even shop in regular stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can just go anywhere and just, what's on the rack? Oh, okay, yeah, I'll try that on.
I know.
There it goes. It looks great. Hey, wow, I can dress to look good. And you kind of like, so I got to buy a whole new wardrobe now. I've just got a couple of shirts, and even those are still a little bit big. Yeah. So that's one of the biggest things is just feeling good about yourself and self-love, and starting to really like yourself. It's that shift, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, I like myself, and that's kind of a new feeling. Oh, that feels good. And that just spills out into every dimension of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's so great that I knew you then and I knew you now, and I got to see you go through this, and it's so incredible. And then you're so inspiring. I feel like we're such kindred spirits.
We are.
Jon, what would you say is the real truth about weight loss?
Oh, the real truth about weight loss. It's the food. It's the food. It's the food. It's the food. Dr. Clapper is what I would say.
That's great. That is so
I'd say Google Dr. Clapper.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's just been such a pleasure talking to you. And thank you so much what you are doing to inspire so many people to get up one more time.
Thank you, Chef AJ.